You know, what's so funny is every time you play one of these intros, I know you know my favorite song because it says it in the book, and I'm like, oh, that's my favorite song. I wonder how they knew. Like every single time.
By the way, how random is it, though? Not only is it your favorite Beatles song, it's also Chris Eliopoulos' favorite Beatles song.
That's the crazy part. You know, so here's the thing is Chris, who's the amazing artist on all the I Am books, I thought I was a pretty big Beatles fan. He's like a lunatic, like in the best way. And so I'm like, I know about the Beatles. I've just spent, you know, a month researching it. And he's like, no. And he would go in and pick out like when John got glasses, you know, like when the actual mustache peach fuzz started before it got fully grown. Like he was down into details that I was like, I'm not sure this is healthy anymore.
Oh, wow. Dude. Hey,
no, but it was good. But yeah, it was his song too. So in the end, one of the last lines in the book, it says, you know, it was a song I used to sing to my kids. I think there are better Beatles songs, but it's the one I used to sing to my kids. And he said, it's the one I used to sing to my kids. And I'm like, we're putting that in the book. I mean, how crazy.
No, and I'll give you that. Now it makes me feel bad. I don't know that I ever sang that song to my kids.
Well, obviously, you know, a lesser father.
But I am glad to hear you say that it may be your favorite for that reason, but it's not the best Beatles song. That I'm glad to hear you say.
No, it's not. No. Yeah, no, it's definitely not. It's just the one that, like, when my kids were little, I'd sing Here Comes the Sun, and it was just that doo-doo-doo-doo was like killer. It's killer. It makes me think of my kids. The moment I hear that song, my kids become little again.
You know, and I will tell you this. Let me say something to you right off the bat. I didn't know what to expect with We Are the Beatles, and I went in going, you've never done a group before. It's the Beatles, so I didn't know exactly what to expect. I'll give you a ton of credit. You crushed it, dude.
No, you know, what's really sweet is obviously with every book, like when we did I Am Jane Goodall proofed the book. We did I Am Billie Jean King spent 2 hours with me on the phone doing the book. Obviously, I was trying to get Ringo and Paul to proof the book, you know, and I couldn't get them, not because they don't like, you know, they didn't want to do it. They just don't do anything with the Beatles anymore. It creates too much headache in the other families and all this stuff. So we went to the guy who helped us was, to me, their best biographer, a guy named Mike Lewison. And Mark Lewison is like this guy out of London, of course, and he's the guy who's just crushed it. And I sent him the book, and no one more than Billie Jean King, more than Oprah, more than Dolly Parton, more than anyone that we've worked with, sent more comments back on the Beatles book than any book we've ever done, because he, you know, the details, and there's 4 different guys you got to deal with. And he also wrote, this book completely made me cry. And this is like the jaded old rock and roll critic guy, you know? Right. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy that like it moved him. And that, you know, I said, this is the one book that I think, yes, it's always meant for your kids and to give them great heroes. But this is the book that I feel like is like so many adults are like, I'm buying this for myself because I need this inspiration and this idea that we need to come together right now.
So I want to ask you, there's a picture early on, and I got an early copy of the book, Brad. So if I'm going to ask 2 questions about a picture, and one of them I hope just isn't a printing error. But there's a picture early in the book where they're on stage, and there are Chris Drew, what is supposed to represent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people just screaming and losing their mind in a crowd. Do you know the picture I'm talking about?
Right at the beginning, yep.
Okay. Number 1, did you hide anybody in the crowd?
This is where Chris Eliopoulos gets me in trouble. I'm sure he did now that you say it. Who are you thinking of? Are you thinking of like Charles Schultz's character?
Oh, no, I was just thinking of like, did you hide friends in there? Like, that's a great scene where it doesn't, because there are certain people and there are certain things that you hide in every book. I just didn't know if that page specifically was like, oh, we can hide a real gem in here.
Oh, no, Chris hides on every, like, if you saw our scripts, like even on the last pages of the book, the second to last page has like all these people standing together on Abbey Road. Right. And you can pick out Yoko. Like, it's pretty obvious who Yoko Ono is. We got to put her in there. We, you know, put Billy Preston in there. But we were just like, I challenge anyone to find all the people that we put in there And on the next page, he put Schroeder from Charlie Brown in there because it's like, it's like, and so Chris is just a killer at that. And what always happened is when we did I Am Walt Disney, I said, you know what, Chris, here's my idea. The book is done. I proofed it. I said, we should go back and put a hidden Mickey. There are hidden Mickeys are like the little mouse ears that they hide all over Disney World in real life. I said, we should put a hidden Mickey on every page of this book. And he said, dummy, they're all there. You missed every single one on every single page.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you, and again, I got an early, I have an early print. And do all of them, and the reason that got me thinking was something hidden. Who is the person with the red eye in that picture?
The red eye, that person is just, I think it's just madness. That just defines madness.
Gotcha. Okay.
Chris. I love, trust me, he always does that when it's like delirium. And I think that's just the one kid is like either on, and here's the other thing is we wanted to make the book real also. So we can't say to your kids when you're reading We Are the Beatles, like, and then they did drugs and the music got really wild, right? But I was like, but we can't hide that either because it's not historically accurate. So I'm like, dude, there's a spread in the book where it's like Beatlemania starts and it has like, when we do I Am Amelia Earhart always looks the same.
Right.
When we do I Am Abraham Lincoln, he's always got the big, the pipe hat and the little beard. But the Beatles evolve. And so I'm like, Chris, they have to change on every page. Their styles change. So, we do Help and Yellow Submarine and, from when they're, they have the regular haircuts. And then I'm like, when we're doing Rubber Soul, let's warp the entire thing. And that's the sign to any parent reading, they're on drugs here. That's why it looks all wavy.
The other thing that I wasn't expecting, Brad, is you introduced each member of the Beatles. You introduced them separately. And I don't know why in my head I thought it was all going to start with, maybe it's just because it's We Are the Beatles. I wasn't expecting it to start with like Paul and he's laying on the floor listening to his dad play the piano. And that's kind of like what got him going. And then we meet John. I don't know that I was prepared to meet them all separately like that.
Well, the one thing we knew about the book, and we always do people that we like, but we try and say, what's the universe need right now? That's what the books are always about, right? Like each book is, in the beginning, you pick the famous people. You pick Rosa Parks and Dr. King and Abraham Lincoln. But now we pick like, what does the universe need? And we always knew this book had to be about one thing, come together. That's it. It had to be about, the secret of the Beatles is they made each other better. That's the thing. We are better when we work together. So I'm like, you cannot sell that to a child without first seeing them apart. So I love the fact you start with Paul and he's doing his thing. And you see John and he's doing his thing. And then they're going about their lives. And then, then they're like, what's better than than that? Friends. And then you're like, I'm George Harrison.
Right.
And then they go through that thing. And then they're like, man, we're so red. There's only one thing missing. And then, you're 10 pages later and it's like, hi, I am Ringo Starr. And by the time they come together in the middle of the book, then you feel like, oh my gosh, I've been on the whole journey with them. And that message of coming together is to me so much more impactful. And I actually love, I know you're not a comic book reader, so comic book readers know how to read, but we were worried.
Excuse me, I know how to read.
To read a comic, I guess.
Oh, I don't know how to read.
You go like down or across.
Oh, there was one place. Yeah, no, there was one place in the book where I was like, I know I got an early copy, but I think Brad screwed this up. Like I'm going down. I'm like, this doesn't even go in order. And then I looked at the other page. I was like, oh, that goes with that. So yes, you're right. I don't know how to read.
But here's what I did is I know you know how to color. And so if you look, which I promise you didn't notice, people are like, who's speaking now? When you say, I am doing this. I grew up in Liverpool. Who's speaking? Is it Paul? Is it John? If you look at the outside of the panel, there's a color on each panel when they're individual. Oh. And the colors, you can see that Paul's is blue and John's is yellow. And you can see that George is, more of like a pinkish magenta. And the reason is because it's their Sgt. Pepper colors.
Nice.
Brad, listen. Okay, I'll confess.
Let me tell you something.
No.
There are nerds right now going, that's awesome. And I'm going to say that's awesome.
Yes, I never picked up on that.
Of course, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. You're never supposed to see it. But the point is, when you get lost, it is there to keep you on track. And I love the fact that I should say, it is the one time where Chris Eliopoulos always shows me up, always puts things in. He had colored it a different way, and I said, "Why didn't you color it Sgt. Pepper's?" He's like, "I'll never forgive you for not thinking of that."
Oh, wow. Good. But here's what I was going to say, Brad. Listen, I'm one of the smartest people you know. I didn't.
I love Tyler's laugh there. In all the years we've been together, I've never heard you laugh like that.
No, but listen, I didn't pick up on that. You think some 8-year-old kid is going to pick up on that? Please.
These 8-year-old kids, if you saw the letter, these 8-year-old kids, they wrote me, they're like, "You got so-and-so's birth," like we did on one book. I forget which one. We typoed the birthday. It's in the back timeline in a font that is like -2. And a kid wrote us on day one is like, "I know the birthday. I know all the birthdays of every U.S. president. You got the birthday." I'm like, oh my gosh. So whatever you think how smart we are, there are kids out there that are combing through these books looking for every detail. Like I thought when I did the Nazi conspiracy, the World War II buffs wrote a lot of the letters.
Right.
Nothing beats the 8-year-old kids that like comb through our kids' books.
You know what? The other thing that I really liked about the book, though, Brad, is listen. Do I like the Beatles? Yes. Do I love their music? Of course I do. But you do learn, like you said, you learn that these were just friends and these were kids that grew up together. I didn't really know anything about them as kids. I had no idea.
Oh, and of course, that's the best part of all the I Am books, right? Like John Lennon and George Harrison. Like George Harrison's 14 years old when he meets him.
Right.
I mean, think about that. 14 years old is like, and no one's much bigger. When Paul and John meet each other, you're talking about like 15, 17 years. They're kids, and I love the fact that we all think right now of the Beatles being like, the stadium and the screaming,
larger than life.
Right, they're bigger than life. They're great at everything. They're the best band. Blah blah blah. But when they go on stage the first time, they're not good. They're not even close to good. They're not magicians. Like they're just regular dudes. And I love that. It's my favorite quote of any Beatles quote is what John's Aunt Mimi says to him. And she says to him, "John, the guitar's all right for a hobby, but you'll never make a living at it. Like no one's believing this thing."
Right.
And then they get this, to me, the turning point is when they're kids is they go to play in Germany and they're in this club it's filthy and it smells and they can smell the toilets because it's so bad. And they just start playing and their song they play is Ray Charles, What I'd Say. And during multiple trips in 38 weeks, so better part of a year, they play over 1,100 hours, 3 hours every night for almost a year. And when they come back, that's when they're finally good. And the message to me and to all of our kids and your nieces, your nephews out there is like, this stuff is hard work. It's not talent. You got to have the talent, but as we all know, hard work can outwork talent, especially when talent doesn't work. And they come back and now they're close to becoming the Beatles. Obviously, they get Ringo and they get the other parts, but that's when you're like, oh, and I want my daughter to have that message that, like, outwork them all.
Right.
I want my sons to have that message that, like, put your head down and trust me. It's not just like luck or, anything else. It's the Beatles' work. They just love what they're doing and they work hard at it.
And like even before they get to the part where they go to Germany, I can't remember because I don't remember what color panel was saying it. But it was like they even say one of them, it's either George, Paul, or John says, "We were crummy, terrible. We were an embarrassment. Nobody would even hire us." And it wasn't until they went to Germany, like you said, and then put the hours in and hours in and hours in. Does Germany, I don't know where that place is that they were playing in Germany, but do they take credit for it? Like Liverpool obviously is very famous for the Beatles. Does that club in Germany take any credit for like, this is where they really honed their skills?
Dude, that toilet that smells takes credit. It's where the Beatles became the Beatles, of course. I mean, these places are landmarks in Hamburg, and each one of these, even the Cavern Club, like, where they played when they came back with Brian Epstein, like every one of these places, you can go on Beatles tours and see where these places are. Everyone thinks it's like just Abbey Road.
Right.
But the Beatles are built. They're not just like something that happens one day. And I love the fact that you even find out when they're naming themselves, right? Like they don't even like their names are like bad. There's like Johnny and the Moondogs, and they have all these other weird names, the Blackbirds, and the Polecats, the Ravens, the Jaybirds. Like they got to go through it. They got to figure it out. And I even one of my favorite things. I thought you were going to jump on this one. My favorite moments in the whole book is when they first meet. John is, kind of standoffish. He's a little bit older, so he thinks he's a little bit better because, he's like 17 and Paul's, a couple years younger.
15.
And 15, that's how couple means. And, and basically, and so they basically, when he first meets him, he's like, yeah, here's this guy who, he knows a song that John knows. He actually knows the words from. John Lennon's on stage just making up the words to the song because he doesn't even know it. He's just BSing his way through it. And John has to have this moment where he's like, I can invite this guy to join me and swallow my ego, or like just, consider myself the best. And he's like, so what do you want to be? Do I want to be the best individual or make the group the best it could be? And he's like, you want to join the band.
Right.
And John Lennon can't play guitar as well as Paul McCartney. And so the way that they learn to play, since Paul's left-handed, they sit face-to-face with each other, and their guitars face the same way because one's left-handed, one's right-handed. And John learns the chords upside down, then goes home and reverses them, and it's like playing in a mirror. And I love the fact that, we even put that moment in the back of the book, like, that's how he learned to play guitar. It wasn't fancy lessons. It wasn't like he went to music school. He just watches, one dude watches some other dude who's a little better than him and says, like, I'm going to try and get as good as you are.
Right.
And that makes John better. And then George makes both of them better. And it's like just each of them trying to kind of top the other is what makes the Beatles the Beatles. It's like, 1 and 1 is 10 with them. Is, if they're alone, they make one song. But when they're together, it's just challenge after challenge, and it gets better and better. And that idea is such a powerful one.
Hey, Brad, I think I think, well, at least for me, that by the time the Beatles music arrives in the U.S., that they are the Beatles, right? Like everything's big overseas. They're definitely through England and stuff. But you say in there the first 3 songs that the Beatles had in the United States were big flops, and 3 of them died. It wasn't until their 4th one, I Want to Hold Your Hand. What were the first 3 that were just duds?
Yeah, it's Love Me Do, dud, dies here. Like all these other songs, I forget the other 2. They all die. And they're literally, when they're first going over to come to America for Ed Sullivan, they're like, I don't know. Oh, Please Please Me is the other one. I just remember. Gotcha. Please Please Me is one of them. Dies. And She Loves You. I think it's Yeah, Yeah, Yeah.
Oh, his dad. Yes, 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 yes.
His father says you should make it yes, yes, yes because it's more proper. And Paul's like, Dad, you're awful, right? Like that's. And can you just imagine? And they don't even want to come. They say on the plane to America, they're dreading it because they're like, our songs they're great in the UK, but America doesn't care at all what we're doing. And all 3 singles come out and flop, and the 4th one comes out, and it's I Want to Hold Your Hand. And needless to say, obviously on the Ed Sullivan Show, ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles, and the whole world changes. And good night.
What was a normal? Because you obviously that gets pointed out in the book the night they played Ed Sullivan, and the night that they played the Ed Sullivan Show, 73 million people watched the Ed Sullivan Show. You may not know the answer to this. What was a normal night's audience for? Like, did he normally have 70 million, or was it normally?
That's a good question.
By the way,
Tyler, a way to figure it out.
Tyler I guess he used the internet.
I'm Googling too, yeah.
40 million was a normal night for Ed Sullivan.
Wow. That's sick. I mean, that's not even, I love that you went 70 million to 73. I mean, if 40 million is the regular and the Beatles come on and 73,
that's amazing.
30, that's a sick number. 40 more million people are showing up that are teenagers. And here's the thing you forget in history, right? Like, is at that moment in time, just before that is when the word teenager becomes an actual word. Because, obviously it's a word that exists, but where we start catering to it. Because before that, whatever and we talked about this when I was doing my Kennedy book. Like, if you were a kid, you took over your dad's or your mom's job. They were a butcher, you became a butcher. They were a baker, you became the baker. But then people started moving to the suburbs. People started getting better education. And once they got better schools and better educations, kids started saying, I don't want to be my dad. I don't want to be a butcher. I want to be something else. I want to have my own job. I want to have my own president. And most important, the surest first way was, I want my own music. And the Beatles stumbled into that. Like, they were the ones who were like, screw my dad's old-timey stuff on the Ed Sullivan Show. Let's go now. And you realize that entertainment, since that moment, is a young person's endeavor, right? Like, that's who goes to movies. Like, when we watched the 80s and the 90s, we went to see The Breakfast Club. We all thought, oh, everything's for us. It's because we were kids. They were catering to us because we needed something to do on a Saturday night. And the Beatles were the music equivalent. And suddenly the world exploded, and those 43 million, kids started going, I want one of those. Give me one of those.
Right. By the way, the best part in the book, though, is each of us made the others better. Find what you love and find friends who love it just as much. Laugh together, dream together, create together, make each other better. When it gets hard, you'll be able to get by with a little help from your friends. That part is awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, the last 2 pages of every book, the last 2 spreads in every book, I do the same way for, 37 books now, is Corey, my wife, comes up to my office and I throw everything I got at her in terms of, like, what's the meaning of this person? Dolly Parton, John Lewis, the Beatles, Sally Ride. And the rule is, I have to make her cry or she makes me cry with whatever she kind of shoots back at me. And one of us has to have, like, tears swell in their eyes or get goosebumps. And you just read the line that made us both, like, tear up. Like, that's it. That's all it's about, is laugh together, dream together, create together, and make each other better. And we were like, that's the core of the Beatles.
Hey, is this the first book? You'll have to remind me. Is this the first book where you deal, or you kind of delve into divorce a little bit?
No. Well, there's one that's coming after that. So I guess that I'm trying to think. Did someone else get divorced? I think one of the person gets divorced. But what's great about that moment of divorce is, and this is one of the corrections that the guy who was proofing it made, is I always was told that Hey Jude was, of course, written by Paul for Julian Lennon when John Lennon got divorced.
Right.
And he's like, no. And this is such a fine point on a pin, and you're going to get all these emails and tweets and all this stuff about it, but he never wrote it for Julian. He got inspired thinking of Julian and all he's going through as the marriage is ending. And he wrote the song, but it wasn't like, I'm going to write a song for Julian to make him feel better. That was what we all put on it. And that moment, though, the fact that we get Hey Jude out of that divorce, that's magical to me. And the line that I put after it in the book, there's a line, I believe it's in there, it says, the song's too long and the DJs won't play it. Like, Hey Jude's just too long a song. And John Lennon comes. This is so John Lennon, just like, they'll play it if it's us. Right. And he's just like, F you, man. Like, they're going to play it. This is where, like, he knows we're the Beatles and we're going to do what we want. And I love the fact that we want to get that in there too, because they're now pushing the boundaries, right? They're saying, I don't care. Like, when Yesterday becomes a song, Yesterday's doesn't just come out of Paul fully formed. It originally starts as scrambled eggs. Oh, my baby, how I love your legs. That's literally the first. And he's like, and they work on it and I wanted to show, like, the evolution of a song. And John and Paul work on it for weeks. And instead, he's like, instead of scrambled eggs, what about Yesterday? All my troubles seem so far away. And they're like, and Ringo's like, we're not putting drums on that. And, then they're like, we're going to hire a string quartet. And you see this whole thing come together. And again, it's always these little pieces. Like, I think so often we think of art as like this, as it comes out fully formed. But art is it's always sitting in the seat and doing the hard work. And I want every kid who dreams of, whether it's music or writing or painting or dance, I know, whatever that kid's dream is to know it's just that hard work and working at it.
Hey, so having gone through this, and I know it just came out, so I don't know what all the response has been. Would you do another group? And I don't mean a musical group, but another group of people?
So I don't know if you know this. I'll announce it here because no one knows yet. We only put it in our like secret newsletter thing, but for the 40th book in the I Am series, we asked people to vote of who the hero that they wanted. We said it's the 40th book. Democracy, at least in our book, still exists. Like, so let's prove it. We can still make democracy work. So we're going to say to America, here are 6 people you can vote on. It was the Wright brothers, Maya Angelou, LeBron James, Taylor Swift, Serena Williams. We let people vote on it. And to my surprise, I thought for sure like Taylor Swift was going to win just because of obvious reasons. And the winner was the Wright brothers. So the 40th book in the series is we're going to do the next book is Simone Biles.
Right.
The book after that, I haven't announced, but I'll say to you, who cares? We're doing Princess Diana, which my wife is so excited by.
And so is Diana.
Diana, yeah, there you go. And then we're doing the Wright brothers. So we're doing another We Are book for the 40th book in the series.
Hey, can I ask you this about the Princess Diana book real quick? Are you going to deal with the accident?
Well, we put it in the timeline. I felt like we needed to say, but we didn't. We decided not to say, and then the paparazzi killed her, and her kids saw the pictures. We kind of we decided to leave that part out, But like we did, but we said how, we did say she died. We never, when we did Amelia Earhart, we weren't like, and then her plane went down in the ocean. Have a good day, kids.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So, we don't show the play for Lincoln, but that one, usually we don't say it, but I felt like with that one you had to. It was just an important one in the end. And that was when you asked about divorce. We definitely deal with divorce in that book. It's a big one for her.
Sure.
And obviously not just for her and Charles, but her and her own parents. It's like a key moment of her life. And there are kids out there. And that's where, it's pages dedicated to that divorce because that's what sent her on 2 different mental health spirals. And that whole book, I Am Princess Diana, is all about empathy. And so you have to see where those spirals come from. And that's where she learns that people are going through stuff you don't know about. So it starts in We Are the Beatles, but obviously becomes a bigger issue in the books that are coming. By the way, can I just tell you, I can't believe you didn't point this out. The picture for Let It Be when they're on the rooftop in the final live concert, the final gig on the roof, is in all the years we've been doing this, is my favorite image I think that Chris has drawn of anything. And I loved it so much that I had Chris make for me, I had him crop out the Get Back JoJo word balloon, and I put it on a T-shirt. And I just was like, I'm making a T-shirt of our own stuff. Like, I do not do that, but Chris's art is so good and then the great part is then Chris sent me a T-shirt of like another image that's one of his favorites. And now at this point, we're just wearing our own stuff. Like, we are just done at all shopping for anything. We're just wearing, clothes
awesome.
from the Beatles.
And that's what I was going to ask, if you thought about taking any of these pictures and making T-shirts, but you already just jumped to the end. Now, let me say this, Mr. Meltzer. On Instagram, you know what I loved but bothered me? In like one of your little hey, the book's coming out pictures. I love you dressed as all of the different Sergeant Pepper's guy. I'm tortured by the one of you with hair.
By the way, let me tell you the horror story of that. So that Barnes & Noble has me doing, we always do story times where I read the books. I always dress up in outfits. And I was like, Barnes & Noble said, can you do We Are the Beatles for us? I'm like, I've been waiting my whole life for you to ask me that question. And so I have so much. There's one of me with hair, but there are, I think, 2 or 3 different types of hair in the story time. Plus, none of those pictures have the full best mustaches. Like, I have a mustache collection that is ridiculous. And I'm like, I don't even care if it matches the Beatles. I'm using all of it, like everything. And so here's the great part is, my sister texted me last night when she saw that picture on my Instagram, and she snaps a shot of just the close-up of me with hair and says, I finally see that we look alike. And I was like, that's a horrible picture of me. It's like a horrible, terrible picture of me with hair. And my sister's literally like, oh, we do look alike. I never thought we did.
All right, last two things. The other thing I saw that you posted, this is not related to you or your books, but more towards your Nerdyville. Did you like Thunderbolts?
Oh, I love Thunderbolts. Yeah,
did you really?
It's like the first it's the first like mental health superhero movie you'll ever see. It really is. All kidding aside, like it's and again, movies are. Listen. I'm an adult. I love my Marvel movies. I love my Star Wars. Blah blah blah. But those movies really are for kids, and the reason that the movie has taken off is because, and I watched it with my own kids who saw it, is our kids are in a mental health crisis. If you have a daughter, like you are dealing with some level of anxiety. Like social media has wrecked our poor kids' brains for years now, and COVID and everything else they're dealing with. And it's hard being a kid right now in America. And the reason why this movie is doing so well after Marvel put out so much crap is because kids are going, that spoke to me. These people have real problems, and that's how I'm feeling. And what you're seeing, I always say that great art, and especially great movies, great stories, great books, they're never things you like about the plot, or you like the plot, or that was great action. When you love a great book, when you love a great movie, it's because that story told you something, not about some character, but it told you something about yourself. And to me, that's why we love the Beatles, because we feel like their story, of course, we're not the Beatles, but their story is like our story, right? We come from nothing. We try to build it. We try and get there. We all know what it's like to have someone who makes us feel a little stronger when they're by our side. And that's the same thing with Thunderbolts. Not to get too, artsy about it, but kids are looking at that and going like, I'm not alone in my really messed up feelings in my brain right now. And you'll see when you see the movie, but it's a movie really about depression and loneliness. And kids are feeling alone right now.
Interesting. That makes me want to see it, honestly, because like you said, Marvel's put out a decent line of like, this isn't really killing it. But the reviews on this thing are fantastic.
And that's why. It's not because everyone loves another fight scene. It's because they found another gear. I always say when I write my thrillers, when I write even the kids' books, smaller is bigger. Right? Make us feel it in our hearts. Like that page you read about, the Beatles, about creating together and dreaming together and laughing together and making each other better. Like, it's not about the 70 million people who showed up and the millions of records. We don't put, like, that's nonsense to me. But I believe in that feeling of like, man, your best friend next to you makes you feel unstoppable. And that small little feeling is what makes us human. And yeah, I can't say it's going to be your favorite superhero movie of all time.
Right.
But I'm telling you, you're going to see something in there. You're going to go like, I see my kids in this thing. Like there's something in there that's just like, I don't want to overhype it. It's not the greatest movie of all time, but it's speaking in a language that people really need right now.
Hey, and then last thing, I don't know if you thought of this or not, but like right now, and this, I'm helping you. Right now is graduation time. Wouldn't this be a good time to get people a copy of Make Magic?
Oh, I love you for it. So obviously I came on the show before and talked about Make Magic. It's my commencement address from Michigan last year that I turned into a book, and it's called The Little Book of Inspiration You Didn't Know You Needed. The perfect graduation gift to give that kid in your life.
Thank you. What
magic is, right? And I love the fact you teach them. There are 4 types of magic tricks. If you ask magicians, there's, take outside illusions and escapes, there's only 4 types of tricks. You make something appear, you make something disappear. The third trick is you make 2 things switch places. And the fourth trick is you take one thing and you turn it into something else. The hardest trick of all, transformation. And the book goes through all the things, and it's a beautiful, inspiring little gift. It's only $10 when you go on Amazon or go to your local bookstore. It's $10. It's a perfect graduation gift. But what I love is I took my niece graduated Michigan this weekend, and I got to go to watch her graduate. Last year, I was on the stage giving the commencement address. This year, I just was literally sitting in the stands with a copy of my book, holding on to my book. I'm like, I know what my niece is getting this year. I got her this book.
Oh, you know what? I'm glad you explained that, because I saw the picture of you sitting there reading it, and I was like, How the F did he do this? What happened where he's reading his book with all of this going on in the background? Now that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, no. And so, let me just say that going and watching graduation is so much calmer for me than standing in front of 70,000 people and having to give and the great part is like this year after me, they got Derek Jeter, which just proves they like bald, handsome men from Florida.
Exactly.
Right? Like that. But people are like, "What do you think of Derek Jeter?" I'm like, I don't even care. It didn't have to be me. Like, I didn't have to like that. I love doing it. It's my Make Magic speech. It may be one of my favorite things I've ever written, which is why people wanted it and asked. We turned it into a book because people were like, "I want this text for my kid.
Sure,
I want this text for my niece. I want it for my nephew." And I've been doing this 25 years, and no one's ever asked me for the text of anything I've said. But this book just it's about empathy, and it's about cruelty and venom, and harshly judging those we disagree with has become sport in our culture. But cruelty and venom aren't signs of strength. They're signs of weakness and petty insecurity. And what takes strength is showing kindness to someone and showing empathy. And there's this line in the book that just wrecks me every time. And it says, one day someone's going to hug you so tight that all your broken pieces will fit back together. And that line, which was said to me at a friend's funeral, just wrecked me. And I put it in the speech, and it's the most photographed page when people buy the book and give it to their kids for graduation that people send back to me.
That's
and
cool.
I love the fact.
That's cool.
I love the fact that people get to give that as a graduation gift. So thank you for mentioning that.
Across the Universe is the best Beatles song of all time. I'll just leave you with that. We Are the Beatles is out and available now. Part of the Ordinary People Change the World series. Brad, it is good to talk to you, sir. Good job on the book, my friend.
Thank you. Love you for it. I'm going to listen to your song now. It is a great song. But
Thank you.
I'm trying to think if it's the best song, but it's a solid.
It is. No, it is the best song, Brad.
Wait, what's Diane's and what's Tyler's? I want to hear everyone's favorite Beatles song.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
I like In My Life.
I know. Yeah, killer.
And Get Back.
Get Back is a killer, too, yeah.
Neither of them really as good as Across the Universe, though.
Tomorrow's the 55th anniversary of Let It Be.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's awesome. Look
just
at all the
as our marketing plan went all along, not just dumb luck once again.
All right, Brad, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, buddy.
Love you.